Okay, hello everyone. My name is Eric Masowski. And in this tutorial, we're going to just be going over the many different ways that you can select objects in Max. So to begin, let's open up the file that came with this tutorial. So we go up to File, Open, and I have it on the desktop. Okay, so we opened up UI selection.max, and once it loads, you'll notice that it has many different primitives scattered about. Now, by default, your select tool is activated and you can select an object just by clicking on it. You can add to your selection by holding down Control and clicking on it, clicking on an object. You can remove from your selection by holding down Alt and clicking on an object. Or if you don't want to select anything at all, just left click in empty space. Now, much like with other programs, you can click and drag in empty space and create a marquee or a selection window. Now, the selection window as it's currently set up by default is it'll select everything that's inside the marquee as well as everything that intersects it. So as you can see, it selected these three objects, even though the circle in the middle here is the only one that's completely inside of it. We can change the way that Max behaves in this respect by going up to the window crossing icon. Currently it's set to crossing, meaning that anything that crosses the marquee or is completely within it gets selected. If we click on that, you see that the circle is now inside, and it will only select objects that completely rest inside of the marquee. Now, sometimes a rectangle isn't the best method for selecting objects. So we have a couple different options for the shape that our marquee takes. So if you look up here at the icon to the left of the window crossing, you see that it has a little tab in the lower right hand side. That lets us know that there's actually more options underneath this icon. So if we click and hold the left mouse button down, we get a drop-down list of several options. We have rectangular, circular, polygon, freeform, and paint. Circular, if you click and drag, creates a circular marquee. Go down to polygon, click and drag to define one line, release the left mouse button, position the next one, left click, and so on, and you can make a very simple shape around your objects. The next one is freeform, which is great if you have a tablet. And so what you do is you just click and drag the mouse to draw the marquee that you want. And then finally we have paint. And as I click and drag the mouse around, that circle is basically our marquee. And so currently it will only select anything that's completely inside of it, because our method is set to window. So you can see there are few objects that I can actually select here. But I will never be able to select these spheres with this method. So what a more common way of using this is switch this back to crossing. Now we'll select anything that comes in contact with. Now, much like with regular selecting, all of these marquee modes can be used in combination with the Control and Alt hotkeys. So to add to a selection, hold down Control. To remove from a selection, hold down Alt. Okay. Now, in addition to interactively selecting objects in your viewports, we can select an object by its name, and if you look at the icon directly to the right of your Select Object tool and click on that, it brings up a Select by Name dialog box. Now at the very top here is a text entry field, so we can start to type in the name of the box and it'll select it for us. We can use wildcards to select objects. We can also filter what objects get listed here on the left hand side. So if we're only interested in bone objects, we could click on that and it'll only show the bone objects here, or in this case the geometry objects. And that's basically it. That's all we're going to go over with this right now. Okay, now in addition to selecting by name, if you use key organization with the colors of your objects, so say these three spheres have something in common, you can go up to edit and do your typical select all, select none, select invert, but you can also select by color, and these are basically just the marquee modes that we went over before. So if we select by color and we click on the sphere, it'll use that color to select any other objects in the scene with that same color. Now that applies to the object color, which is right here on the right hand side, not the material color. So keep that in mind. Okay, now finally the last thing I want to show you is something called selection sets. So say we have a complex selection here, and it's a little cumbersome to go ahead and select these three objects over and over again, especially if we need to work with them quite often. So what we can do is we can select various objects, and up here at the top of your viewport, see an empty drop-down list. Click in there and type in any name that you want. Then hit enter. And what this does is it creates a selection set. And a selection set is just a really quick way to call back any selection. So I deselect and then click on the drop-down list, and it brings back those selected objects. So I can now create one for these blue boxes. And so now I can easily toggle between these. Okay, so that basically does it for an introduction to selecting in 3D Studio Max. Feel free to ask me any questions or post in the forums. Thanks, bye.